I'm making this video for my past self. A couple years ago, I qualified for a lot of funding and used it to make some investments that did not work out. And so I found myself with bad credit, tons of debt, and when I wanted to grow my funding business, I felt like somewhat of an imposter. So right now, if you aspire to grow your funding business and you know the potential, the financial impact it can help people with, you know how much money you can make, but you feel like this fake guru, I want to walk you through some of the frameworks that helped me break through some of these broken limiting beliefs and now allowed me to grow a business that has now impacted so many people, that's allowed me to now pay off all my debt and create such an amazing lifestyle. So to give you the backstory as to how I even found myself there, well, at 23, I had a work opportunity down in South Florida with a fitness franchise and helping them grow their business. I saw it as an amazing opportunity because South Florida was housing a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses. I could probably come up with the right fit for me that would allow me to run my own business and get rich, which has always been my dream. And so I took the job, I moved to South Florida, started working, and although I wanted to grow a business, I was limited by my limited savings, right? I was paycheck to paycheck, just like most Americans out there, and so I had a need for capital. And so as I started to go to different networking events, meeting different people, I started to find out about business funding. And so with the little savings I had, I bought a funding course which showed me how to optimize my profile and qualify for some funding. Once I had some funding, I bought into a mentorship. This showed me how to get a lot of funding, and so shortly thereafter, after getting into South Florida, I was able to qualify for basically $250,000 of funding. So I was 23, I had access to tons of capital, I had some big eyes, I was really excited, I wanted to move fast, I wanted to become that young, rich story, and so I started to make these big bets, okay? So shortly after I got access to the funding, I started going to more conferences, joining different networking groups, and I was meeting these different investors that had these passive income opportunities, and I started going all in. I figured that I was young, I could take these big bets. I also had access to a lot of capital, so I could always basically use more or qualify for more, and even if only one of the investment opportunities worked out, I could probably at least break even and make more money. So I basically was in my job, I qualified for funding, I met these investors, I put a lot of the funding into it, and long story short, basically none of them worked out, right? So I made all these bets onto these get-rich-quick schemes, basically, and fortunately, it didn't work out, and so I had to quit my job. I put all this funding to work, and now I was in tons of debt. The payments were due, and I wasn't even making that much income, right? Because I had quit my job. So at this point, I figured, okay, well, I need to make something happen, right? I was motivated, and I was still driven to succeed. And so I thought back as to, okay, what was I able to do? What are the skill sets I've acquired up to this point? And although funding had put me in a bad spot, I knew that funding was still what allowed me to, at this point, leave my job, travel to different conferences, allow me to at least take a risk and a chance as to launching my businesses. And so funding was what I saw as the most logical option. And so I saw different people online that had launched funding businesses that were making a lot of money with it. And so in one part of my mind, I saw the opportunity. People were charging a lot of money for it, like $8,000 for a funding package, and they had created these different lifestyle businesses, although we know that a lot of the online people, right, they say one thing and another one's the reality, but I saw a big opportunity with that. But on the other side, I did know that funding was what kind of put me in this situation, right? I had these monthly payments, my credit wasn't great, I had all this debt, so I was somewhat scared about the situation. So some of the frameworks that really helped me navigate this process as to breaking through this bad situation. And so the first one that really helped me kind of have confidence launching this business is knowing that the funding wasn't what hurt me, it was my decisions with the funding that hurt me, right? It's not like we see these school shootings, which are horrible situations. Well, it's not the gun that did it, it's the individual, right? So the situation in my case was the funding was the gun, right? And so I was using funding in the poor way, which put me in this bad situation, but the funding wasn't the culprit. It was this lack of skill set that put me in this bad situation. So when I was helping people with their funding, I wasn't telling them what to do with the funding. I wasn't telling them to get after these get-rich-quick schemes or investing everything into different passive opportunities, right? That wasn't my goal. It was about helping them qualify for the financing that would allow them to launch the business, which is very important. Okay, so what we're trying to do in this case is really just giving them the tool to now break out of the paycheck to paycheck situation, perhaps helping them improve their credits, qualify for funding, and now giving these people the opportunity to change their life. So that was the first one for me right there, is understanding that the funding wasn't the fault. Although I am helping people with more funding and I currently have a lot of debt, well, I'm simply helping them acquire the tool set that was at least allowing me now to quit my job a while ago, allowing me to travel to different conferences, and now sell a high ticket package. Okay, so that was the first one that really helped me out. The second one is the fact that this was part of my journey. Okay, there's probably not one single entrepreneur out there that has had a very smooth sailing, right? If you hear about Elon Musk, he had grown the first business, the second one didn't work out. At one point, he basically found himself having to ask people for money to be able to pay for his rent. He had to sleep on people's couches, right? That was part of his journey. Alex Ramosi, same thing. He launched different gyms. He then had his money stolen, and so he was basically broke, 100K in debt, and he had to make something happen. So every single one of us needs to go through this hero journey to earn it. If you hear about these different trust fund babies of people that have it all, they feel and are rich, but then they go through these bad rabbit holes of drugs, of chasing dopamine, and just never really creating that fulfilling life. Well, it's because they had everything given to them, and so they never really earned that position of having the abundance in their life, and so that's why they go down these dark paths of trying to find purpose in the wrong things. And so I think it's only natural for us to basically earn this position. If you really think about it, a lot of people really romanticize the 100K a month, now $1 million a month apparently is a new standard target, and it's not that normal if you really think about it, right? A lot of people that become doctors, they make probably $30,000 a month, and they went through 15 years of school. They've been in their practice for a very long time, right? That's like at the higher echelon. Same thing for lawyers. They make $30,000 a month. Then everyone else that aren't in those white collar industries, well, they probably make $100,000 a year at the upper middle average, right? And here we are trying to talk about $100,000 a month as if it's normal, right? Well, most people in reality don't really get to that point. And so the people that do, they have built up their armor, they've built up their skill set to earn that position. Only a certain amount of people with the personality and characteristics to earn that will ever get to that point, because someone that makes $100,000 a month is going to have very good discipline, really strong work ethic, the ability to stay focused long term on one project, the ability to have high energy, high ideas, move fast, right? And these are just on like the characteristic side of things. And then when it comes to skills, well, throughout this entire hero journey, you need to know how to market yourself, how to close deals most likely yourself over sales calls. You need to know how to fulfill for your clients so they actually get good results and you grow a good brand awareness. You need to know how to then grow a team, how to build systems, right? There's all these different pieces to the puzzle. And for those of us that had this mistake thinking that at 23 years old, if I just plug money into the system, I'll have all my problems solved. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case, right? We do have to go through this hero journey of acquiring the skill sets, building up our character, our personality traits, and that's what allows us to level up in the game of life and finally create that income potential. Thankfully, nowadays, we do have a lot of mentors we can work with that can accelerate this path, that can show us the different things to avoid, the different things to focus on, how to basically grow a lot faster, but we still have to go through the steps ourselves. So that was the second thing for me, is understanding that this is normal. In the darkest days when I was really just like scared, to be honest with you, I was in a lot of debt, all these big monthly payments, I didn't really have that much money coming in. I knew that this would be the moment that I could look back on, that I could hopefully create a good experience from, that I could then tell inside of my story. And I knew that as long as I just kept pushing, I could not fail. And that was like the ultimate thing for me. You don't fail unless you give up. And so I knew that if I kept pushing, I'd be able to do it. And then finally, another framework that was able to really break me through this was the fact that funding is a high ticket offer. Okay, so let's say for example that you're in 150K in debt, which sounds very scary, right? Most people probably only build up like $20,000 in savings a year. I'd say the average American, if that. The labor statistics say that most Americans couldn't even cover a $2,000 expense, so most people don't even have $2,000 in savings. So if you're 150K in debt, you're like way in the negative, right? But thankfully, as I said earlier, although most people at the highest level, doctors, lawyers, they might make $30,000 a month. Well, if you're selling funding, in most cases, I help my clients charge at least $8,000 for funding, right? So if you're trying to make $30,000 a month, it takes 4 clients. If you need to pay off 150K in debt, it takes around 20 clients, right? So that was something else that really helped me kind of stay positive and ambitious and keep that drive, was the fact that not only did I have so much pressure that I had to push through, but also was the fact that I knew that funding could get me out of it, right? Again, funding was not the thing that hurt me, it was the mistakes I made with the funding. So I knew that if I helped people with the funding, I could help them change their life, and I could charge a lot of money for it because it's very quantifiable, right? If I get you 100K of funding, we fulfilled on the promise, right? So with that, we were charging the $8,000, and I knew that with the high ticket, I could dig out of the hole very, very quickly. So I already knew that I had the right vehicle at this point. All I was missing now was the fact that I had to improve on my marketing, create better content, understand how to run ads, improve my fulfillment system, build out automations, portals, pipelines for the system that can actually house my clients and create a better experience, and then plugging in the team was the final element. So I knew that the vehicle of funding, being it a high ticket package, would allow me to make a lot of money very quickly if I figured out the business side of things. And so then I started to work with some different mentors, basically going further into debt to acquire the skill sets that I was missing to then project out. And then thankfully, very quickly inside of my funding business, in my first month I signed 5 funding clients, and then trial and error, we tried a lot of different models with done for you funding, done with you funding, running different types of ads, different types of content, just put it all together little by little, understanding how to hire a team, train a team, lead a team, and step by step we start to create a business that was consistent, that was cash flowing. It wasn't a get rich quick experience that I was hoping for initially, but throughout this entire journey I built a lot of skills, I built a lot of character, I built a lot of toughness, which is what you really need in business. And now thankfully, after just a couple years, I was able to pay off all my debt. My business makes, profit wise, a lot of money. And now thankfully, we've also created such an incredible impact, not only for the clients that have gone through my credit repair and funding programs, but now with our Credit Coach Academy program, we help the same clients that are currently going through perhaps this struggle of bad credit, bad finances, but able to leverage capital to grow their own skill sets. We help them leverage capital, work with us, plug in the missing elements to now grow their business so much faster. And that's not all of our clients. Not everyone's in a bad financial situation. Some people have some momentum, they just want to go faster. But I basically just want to give you, or allow you to believe in yourself a little bit, understand that this is just part of the journey, hopefully give you some confidence as well. If you need some kind of external person telling you, I hope that this video gives you that permission you need to just go further into this opportunity. Funding truly helped me change my life and create this abundance. I've been traveling full time this entire year now so far to many different countries and different continents, building up the team that allows me to do this with leveraging my time and being able to enjoy it while having a lot of the machine kind of running on its own, and now creating such an impact that we're helping other funding coaches grow and hit these 30, 40, 50K months consistently, because we have all those different skill sets that I know that I was missing in my journey, and now handing it over to them. But yeah, hopefully this video helps you out, kind of more of like a little bit of a mindset one, which I don't really do too often, but I needed this video back in the day to know that it's normal. A lot of us funding coaches go through it because we have access to capital. We take these big bets. We're entrepreneurs. We're willing to invest in ourselves, but sometimes we make mistakes, and that's okay. But I want to let you know that funding is the right opportunity. You can make a lot of money with it if you plug in the last remaining pieces. So thanks so much for being here with me today. If this video is valuable for you, or you want to see more just like it, please comment down below. Otherwise, thanks so much for spending some time with me here, and I'll see you in the next video.